If you want to participate, contact me at ordinarywomenpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure you have great projects to brag about. You can also follow me and message me on Instagram at ordinarywomenpodcast, on Twitter at ordinarywomenpc, or on Facebook on the page Ordinary Women. Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Ordinary Women. I'm welcoming Veronica today. Hi, how are you?
Hi, hello, I'm fine. How is everyone? Very happy to be here.
Yay, very happy to have you here. Can you start by giving us a quick introduction of yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, my name is Veronica. I'm from Spain. I moved to the UK 12 years ago. Yeah, 12 years ago. I came for a 3 months internship and I fell in love with the city I moved in. I moved to Brighton. I don't know if you know it, if you have been here, but it's a very, very cool city, very open minded, very vibrant. So, yeah, I fell in love with the city, and 1 year later, I fell in love with my British partner. So, 12 years later, I'm still here with 2 kids and a mortgage. I am a digital marketing consultant. Quite recently, I moved from corporate to freelancing. And although I absolutely love my job, my super passions are writing and photography. And it has been this step from corporate to freelancing that has given me kind of the last push and that confidence I needed to get out there as a writer and visual artist. And this is why I'm here, just to talk about getting out there and claiming our space as a woman.
Amazing. Can't wait to hear about all of this. And is there something unusual about yourself?
I have something that my partner finds very unusual. It's very common for a Spaniard, but not for, I guess, someone who is not from there. I love, absolutely love eating sunflower seeds with a shell, and I can spend hours at night just on the sofa on my own with my sunflower seeds, eating them and just thinking about life, about what I'm going to do tomorrow. So it's kind of my break, my time for my own with my sunflower seeds.
I love that. Also, sunflower seeds are so good. But did you
Exactly.
say, yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, it's a very healthy habit.
Obviously, on this podcast, we talk a lot about what it's like to be a woman. And so I like to start by asking, was there an event or a moment in your life when you realized that you are a woman?
So I think it has been like a very slow process to realize about what it is to be a woman, but definitely I can identify 2 moments in my life where really hit me, and I think to start with will be when I was between that transition between being a child to a teenager. By that time, it was more about refusing to be that woman or what we were expected to be. I was refusing the idea of I couldn't walk alone at home at night, or I couldn't have open sexual life, or I had the intuition that there was something wrong there. That wasn't being a woman. I didn't really like women magazines. I didn't like afternoon in spas. I did like sports. I did like adventure. So yeah, I think I did refuse to be that woman, or what I understood that being a woman was. Little by little, my eyes were being opened, and I started to realize that that wasn't being a woman. But it wasn't until I became a mother that my eyes fully opened, and kind of I understood that the problem was that I didn't identify with the narrative we were told. So it wasn't like I didn't identify with being a woman, is what I didn't identify with the narrative we were told we were supposed to be. And by meeting other mothers and by meeting other women, I started to realize that we are actually very powerful human beings, that we are super capable, we are already super capable. It's just a problem with the narrative that has made us believe otherwise. So yeah, I think that has been the two key moments of what being a woman is.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's so interesting. It's also extremely interesting, I think, that so many women are like, oh, but how to say that? Like, I've been presented with that idea that a woman was like a very passive, beautiful object, and I'm not, hence, I didn't want to be a woman. Whereas most of us are really happy being women, just not
Yeah,
objects, which
exactly. Yeah.
shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, listening to music, and I will identify with more with males' feelings because the other side was, yeah, exactly, like very, very passive and very dependent, and it was like, yeah,
Mhm.
that is not me. I don't identify with that. Um, but it was just what we were told we were feeling. So yeah, it has been quite a journey to fully understand that that is not necessarily being a woman.
Yeah, that is so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. And did you grow up with any women role model?
So I think that's part of the story there is that I don't think there were that many women role models there. So yeah, I cannot identify any woman. I could think about men, but that was the issue. um, but I think what I have found along the years is just very inspirational woman. So not necessarily role model, but women who have been opening my eyes.
Yeah, who, for instance, opened your eyes?
So I think I can put as an example very recently. I have met a few women in the arts industry and also in the digital marketing industry who, how can I say this? As your podcast, ordinary women who have shown me that, they have their feelings and their way of doing things are as valid as male feelings and male way of doing things. So that is what it has inspired me to say, okay, my way of feeling and my way of doing things is also valid. So seeing those ordinary women having that confidence on themselves has inspired me, and it's just normal woman in my life.
That is so interesting. I love that. And then do you think that you suffered from lack of representation of women in society?
So I do think so, and I think part of the problem is that we haven't felt entitled to get out there, and this is why we are missing so many women. You will get, for instance, there was a contest very recently about women in the digital marketing industry, and they were asking for women representing women in the industry. And if that has been a male thing, you will have gotten loads of men raising their hands with no problem at all. However, as women, it was very difficult to find those women raising their hands. Like, we feel we are not good enough, we don't deserve it, we are not there yet, and therefore we don't put ourselves out there, and therefore we don't have that many women out there either.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, the data around it is actually absolutely awful on how, but it's really sorry, I didn't finish my previous sentence. The data around it is really, yeah, really awful, and it's absolutely infuriating and devastating. But also because there are so many, obviously, so many very talented women out there who definitely could and probably should But I think it's also very interesting because I think it really comes back to what you were saying earlier with the idea that we have of women, that we've been made believe, this is not correct English, that oh, I've lost my English.
It happens to me all the time. No, yes, that's the thing that we are as a human beings, we are amazing, and we have lots to say and lots to share, and very interesting point of views, and we don't validate them. We question them a lot, and we are being questioned a lot, and therefore we struggle to get out there. And I think it's very important to just get out there, to share what we think, what we are doing, to actually shout about it, because we need those voices. And this is why I think your podcast is brilliant, because we need to hear all of us, and we need to see that we are as capable, and plus we don't need to be perfect to be there. Any other male colleague will do. We can do it as well.
Completely. I'm really trying to do that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, completely.
We just have to push ourselves.
Completely. But I love that now also with more information about it, more research and data, we're also able to know more and act against all the injustice that we have grown up with, I guess.
Yeah, I guess this is like understanding that we are enough. We don't need to be perfect. We just have to share what we think and what we believe, and we have to believe on that.
Completely.
Yeah.
I love that. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. I'd like to jump on kind of the second part of the podcast and talk about something that you have done or are doing and are excited about. So yeah, you mentioned earlier that you wanted to talk about your art, correct?
Yeah, I think that is at the moment is what I'm more proud of, is having that confidence of going out there with what I'm doing. Because as I said, until quite recently, I was always thinking, oh, my writing is not good enough. It has to be perfect to be valid. So yeah, I was doing my own thing, but keeping it for myself. And after, as I said, going from corporate to freelancing helped me to understand that I am capable, and that it doesn't have to be perfect to be valid. So I just decided to get out there with what I'm writing and what I'm doing and the photos I'm taking, and to try. And if it doesn't work in one place, it may work in another, or I may learn something to improve it. And I'm quite happy because I took the step, and it's already giving some results. I'm getting some stories, some pictures, and some poems published. So I'm very, very happy I have been able to say, you know what, I'm not perfect and I don't mind. And having the output of actually that is working, what I'm doing is enough, is, yeah, very proud of that, very proud of giving that step, very proud of the results I'm getting.
I love that. That's so cool. And that's, I think, any artist's dream, right? Having your art being shared with other people. That's amazing. So how did you get that? So you mentioned that you get that like a Eureka moment. I don't know how to call that. How did that happen? You mentioned that you got it during like when you moved to freelancing, but what happened? Was there just one moment or
So I think, to be honest, I think it has been a very, there has been like enormous hard work internally going on myself for the last few years. As I said, since I became a mother, a lot of things have changed in my mind, and I have been working a lot on on anxiety, on tackling negative talk, on tackling perfectionism, on tackling imposter syndrome. I'm working a lot on self-awareness, on self-love, and on self-confidence. And that translated into work, and I was able to say, okay, I think I am capable of going freelancing, and I gave the step. Then that followed by work related. That followed by giving my first public talk about digital marketing, and that was something that actually that terrified me. Public speaking is like it was a no. And it was, you know what? Because it's a no, I'm going to do it. So I did it, and it went very well, and I was very proud of myself. So that pushed me to say, okay, you know what? If I can do public speaking and I can believe in myself at work, I can also believe in myself with the thing I love the most, that is writing and taking photos. So that gave me that last push of, okay, I have done my internal work. I have proved it work in my career. Now it's going to work with my passion.
I love that. That's amazing. So what did you start um how did the public speaking happen? Was it offered to you or did you seek it out as like a challenge?
So I think it was kind of both. As I said, with motherhood, I started to open my eyes to other women and trying to kind of increase my relationship with other women. So I joined a lot of mother groups, and then I joined some professional groups with women. And one of them is actually one of the members of this group who was in your podcast quite recently, is Tuha. So I was in that community, in the Women in PPC, and I met Tuha, I met Anu, and we were there in that community. Was awesome because we were talking about exactly that, about women should claim their space. We should get out there. And we were talking about that, and then Anu said, I have this event. Do you want to talk in it? As you are talking about claim your space, you have space. And I said, yeah, Tuche, you have me. So I said, yes, completely terrified. That community and Anu and Tuha helped me a lot to believe in myself, and just did it. And that actually, I think it's quite sweet how it links with that podcast with Tuha about the power of community and enhancing women, because yeah, they were very strong pillars, but in that time of my life.
Yeah, definitely. Community is so important and can definitely give you that push.
Yeah.
At that time, did they know, like to her when she asked you if you wanted to speak, did she know about the art that you were making?
No, by that time I was very quiet about it because yeah,
Mm,
like low confidence, and this is private thing. Um,
yeah.
no one knew about that.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm so glad that yeah, you did that. And so after you got the courage basically to say, okay, I want to do it, I can do it. What did you do?
So very similar to professional side, I first reached the community. So I asked a few people within the industry that I met about opportunities, about how they were doing it, and they gave me some tips, like some editorials to follow, some people to follow, some people to connect, and I started from there. And yeah, it's just, I think that is another big life lesson I have learned the last few months, has been the power of community and networking, and how it can push you and how it can open you a lot of doors. And you just have to say, hey, I like this, I would like to try, and there are a lot of people willing to help.
Definitely. That's so cool. I'm so yeah, happy that you found that community.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, so you mentioned writing and photography. Is that your main media of expression?
yeah. those two. Yeah, I'm so writing. I have been writing forever. Photography. I was very interested in that, but I took it a little bit more seriously in the last few years, and I'm still learning a lot. And it's just exciting.
Oh, that's so cool. Do you do like crossovers between writing and photography, or do you keep them separate?
So yeah, I have them both. So some of the projects are photo with poems or photo with quotes, and others just separate.
That's amazing. And do you think that one day you'll leave from your art?
Uh, I think I don't want to do that. um, I just feel I don't want to. I don't want my bills to depend on what I enjoy and not on what I want to express. So I
Mm.
want to make sure that what I write and what I express is based on what I'm feeling and not on what I need to pay my water and my electricity.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I prefer to have it separate.
That makes so much sense. I love that. Yeah, that's so cool. And so, like, in terms of practical organization, do you like have time that you set up for these, or is it just like whenever you feel like doing it?
So I used to be more like whenever I feel it, but the problem you have with that is that you delay it all the time, or
Mm.
yeah, it is very difficult to finish a project like that. So I had to become much more organized with my time, especially with the two kids, and then trying to do like having my own freelancing clients. Um, so definitely being organized has been a key point to be able to produce things because otherwise, yeah, you just get lost in time.
Yeah, I can imagine. And so, where do you expose it? Or I don't know, writing, if you talk about exposing, publishing maybe. Where can people see your art?
So I'm going to be published in a few anthologies this year. One is I don't remember the name. This is terrible, but is yeah, I don't remember the name of when one of the short stories is going to be published in an anthology that I cannot remember the name, and the other poems are going to be published. One of them in a book about sex positive, so it's about empowering women and empowering people to live sexuality in a positive way, and the other one is about fighting patriarchy. So it's going to be there. In terms of photography, I was part of an exhibition in Brighton that has finished now, and this is work in progress. So I'm sending that is the thing. I'm sending my work to different places, without the fear of I may get rejected, and assuming that that is can happen and that is fine. And yeah, let's see what it brings.
I love that. And yeah, I was gonna ask, so how do you find projects? How do you find where to be exposed?
So as I said before, is I have done it through networking, talking to people, finding some interesting editorials or projects that are aligned with my values and with what I'm doing. For instance, this project about fighting the patriarchy. I was following this editorial about diversity, women, minorities, and they launched this project about fighting the patriarchy. So I contacted them with one of my poems, and they like it. So basically, I think is having the eyes very open and asking and talking to people and being active. Basically, again, I think that is the thing: getting out there, letting people know what you're doing, and believing in yourself and not being afraid of asking or showcasing what you're doing.
That's so great. Yeah, and you mentioned that, and I guess everyone can relate to that, like fear of rejection is quite a universal thing. How do you deal with that?
And I think that
Especially when it's your art. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, I think yeah, as you said, that is a very hard word because it is very difficult to deal with rejection, isn't it? And yeah,
Yeah.
happens with yeah, at work, at life. So I'm following one process I learned. I don't know if you have heard about CBT, like cognitive therapy.
Yeah.
So they have this process, and I read about it in a book, and I did love it. And it's about challenging your thoughts. So when you get a rejection, that triggers something on your thoughts and triggers some negative self-talk. So it's stopping, sitting down, hearing your thoughts, and explaining to yourself why those thoughts are not valid. So if you get a rejection, the problem is that what it happens is that you will think that you are not enough. You will think that you are rubbish. So this is why rejection is so difficult because it will trigger those thoughts. So challenging them and saying, okay, just because this person doesn't like what I have written, or just because this work is not liked by this gallery, doesn't really mean that it's bad. Doesn't really mean that I'm rubbish. Doesn't really mean that I'm not enough. It may mean complete like infinite things. It could mean that yeah, your work needs a little bit more of work, and that is fine because then you can learn something. It can mean that that gallery is not aligned with your values or with your way of expressing. It may mean that there was someone that was better than you, and that is fine because those things happen. So I think sitting down and dealing with your thoughts and explaining to yourself why that doesn't define who you are is a way to deal with rejection.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Rejection is such a funny thing to deal with. Yeah, realistically, think we kind of all know that, yeah, all these reasons exist. And when there is a rejection, it can be because of like oneself, but also it can be because of so many other things. I mean, I'm sure a psychologist would be way more, way better explaining why than me.
It's just,
But yeah, it's really,
I think it's just becoming self-aware of your own thoughts and seeing how like that rejection is triggering something on you, and then saying, okay, I'm going to sit down and hear that thought and tell that thought that is not true for these reasons. It is so needed and valuable. And yeah, I think we should do it like with everything actually in life. Every time we see
yeah.
something negative, to sit down and hear that thought and say, okay, is this real or is just my mind getting very negative?
Yeah. When that happens, what brings you back? It's like, or like, is there anything else aside from like the self pep talk, everything? Is there something else where you're like, no, I need to do that anyway, or I don't know.
So I think so. In the last few years, I have done like a lot of like self confidence, self love exercise, and it has been a very interesting journey. And some of the things that have helped me a lot as well is to keep a document in my computer about achievements, the small ones, the big ones, everything. So when I get a rejection or something like that that can trigger, and it's difficult to challenge, I go through that document and remind myself why I'm enough. And I also want to remind myself and also to tell everyone that even though I'm talking about looking into your achievements, that is not why we are enough. We are enough because we are enough. And
Mhm.
the simple fact that we are human beings. We are kind. We love our family. We love our friends. That is enough, and that's an achievement in itself. So having that perspective, okay, this work, this piece of art, this poem, this project, this job doesn't define me. Doesn't define me. Is also very necessary there. So having those achievements on one hand, and also reminding that even then you are enough. Even without those achievements, you are enough.
I love that. And yeah, definitely. That's super, super cool. And where do you find inspiration?
So I love walking, and going for walks is just, I think, one of the most inspiring moments. So when I need
Hmm.
some inspiration, I just go for a walk. And depending on how I'm feeling, I may go for a walk in the countryside, or I may go for a walk in middle of London, and that just brings just triggers feelings and triggers ideas. So yeah, walking.
I love that. That's so cool. And what do you, well, we've kind of, I think, mentioned some, but what do you think are the challenges that you have faced or are facing?
So I think the first biggest challenge was my mind and myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, having that negative talks with myself, that imposter syndrome, that perfectionism, where if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't enough. So I think that has been the biggest challenge, and I think that is the case for a lot of us. We are our biggest challenge. And this is why I think it's so important to go out there and tell everyone, hey, you are enough, you are amazing, believe in yourself, and get out there.
Yeah, definitely. And was there anything that was easier than you thought would have been?
Getting published, it has been like, really, it was like, why haven't done this before? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's the thing. I think we put so many fears in our mind that we stop ourselves, and then when we do it, it's just like, oh, this was easy.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And so do you have any plans for your art? Like, do you want to have more of your life to your art, or are you happy with the way it is, or are you just going with the flow and see what happens?
I am going with the flow and see what happens. I mean, I have some plans with some work I have done to get it out there, but apart from that, yeah, going with the flow. Just keep experimenting with my writing, my photography, and also keep experimenting with life itself. Like again, what getting out there brings me.
Yeah, and I guess that with your children, that will, well, like, and with life in general, that children must be a very good source of continuous learning.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think one of the beautiful, like, we all know this, but I think it is very difficult to embrace it. And this comes related to rejection and failure, is seeing them failing and going for roller skating and they falling off, and then you telling them, hey, it's okay, this is happening because you are trying. It's like, oh, I'm telling this to my child, but I still believe on this. It's fine to fall because that means I'm trying. And definitely just like, it's making me embracing those lessons that we hear about all the time, and yeah, it's true, but we don't really embrace them. It's really helping me to embrace that.
I love that. And yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so funny the amount of thing you can tell people without ever applying it to your own life
Yes,
while knowing you should.
we hear all the time, like, like all of these singers, artists, actors who are like, yeah, I was told I couldn't sing, and see me now. And it's like, yeah, you're right. If you believe in it, you should do it. But then we don't really embrace it. And yeah, we should.
Yeah, definitely. And why are you proud of it?
Why? I think I'm proud because I'm pushing myself and I'm growing as a person, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of keeping learning and growing. So all of these experiences and all of these, you know, changing from corporate to freelancing and getting my work published is taking me out of my comfort zone, and that means that that brings you learnings, and I'm proud of that.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we're going to conclude our episode on this Before we stop, is there anything that we didn't talk about during our discussion that you wanted to mention?
No, I think I would just like to reiterate, women out there, please believe in yourself, get out there. We need you, we need your voice, we need to know what you are doing, what you're feeling, because we need the world to have that perspective. So please, please, please go out there.
I love that, and I will try to apply that to myself. Thank you so much. This is so interesting to hear. Yeah, thank you. And if that's okay, I'll put, I don't know, like whichever resource where we can find your art in the show notes.
Perfect, yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. And there is a tradition on this podcast that the guest always gets the very last word. So the mic is yours.
Okay, so first off, thank you for listening. And I have here two quotes I have used a lot in the past. So I would like to share them with all of you. Maybe they help you as well. So the first one is, she thought she could, and she did. And the second is, the real glow up is when you stop waiting to turn into some perfect version of yourself and consciously enjoy who you are right now.